Job's Redeemer. After Job spoke to God and prayed for his friends, the things in his life turned 180 degrees again, but this time with a positive outcome. He was blessed twice as much as he was before. But think about it. Did Job receive an answer to his suffering? Why he suffered? What was the purpose of all the killing that happened? Remember his servants? What was the purpose of his son and daughters being smashed under the roof of their house? What was the purpose of all the humiliation, and what was the purpose of all the nasty pain in the flesh? What caused all of that? We know what caused it. We know about the heavenly meeting. Job knew nothing about it. And even if he knew, what did really justify him being an innocent victim of a distant cosmic argument? And this week, we're going to be looking for better answers, but not only in the book of Job, but also for outside of the book of Job.
There are many unanswered questions, and we will not find answers to all of them. But what is really amazing for me is how, after talking to God, Job's heart found peace. He was in pain. He was in despair. He couldn't find meaning in life. He had so many questions. But God showed up. This meant that God was listening to him. God talked. He didn't explain much, but for Job, it was enough. God was his creator. And for Job, this meant more than just a distant power that put things in order for life to exist.
And of course, we start our quest by a reference in the book of Job, something that we already talked about in chapter 19, verse 25. Job said, "I know that my Redeemer lives." We don't know how much meaning or understanding has been invested in this statement by Job himself. However, it is clear that he saw a figure of a mediator or vindicator that made it possible and will make it possible for him to stand one day face to face with God.
We don't know how much Job knew and understood, but he knew that God was not just his creator, but that it was because of him that Job was redeemed and was able to live. Job saw God as one who is caring and involved. But during his struggles, he also expressed some doubts. How could God really understand us? Is this possible?
The lesson continues and digs deeper in what was Job's understanding of salvation by extracting two verses, verse 4 and 5 from chapter 10. And that blows my mind, how Job interpreted the problem of God's deliverance. Here is Job asking God, "Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as a mortal? Are your days like those of a mortal, that you will search out my faults and probe after my sin?" In other words, how can you judge me, you who are not like me? You are God, you are the creator, but do you know what is to suffer as we suffer? Although the question stands big in the book of Job, the answer is not found there, but much, much later on in the life of Jesus Christ.
This is a very important moment here. Many of us also think about God as someone with powers who should protect us in exchange of obedience and worship. But there is no such contract. To try to gain a perspective, let's put ourselves in the position of a parent of a young person in trouble, someone who went down a path from which it's impossible to come back, owing to people from which you can't get away from, enslaved by addictions, without any perspective for life. We are the parent. How can we help our child? We may have all the powers on earth, but there are things that you can't just erase. The debt has to be paid. We put ourselves in such situation. Sin has done terrible things to us. We are doomed. But our Creator can't let this happen. He involved everything that he has, everything that he is, to give us a chance.
The book of Job remains only a piece of the puzzle until we get to the cross, where the story of Job starts to project a proper perspective. The answers of the questions that we're asking for the past couple of months come from the Gospels and places like Philippians 2:7, where it says that He, meaning Jesus Christ, made Himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. Now that there was somebody who was feeling like we do, somebody who was hurting and suffering like we do, somebody who was vulnerable as we are, this somebody is not a creator only anymore, but a comforter, a mediator, and a redeemer, just like Job knew it to be.
God is walking the walk with us at 100%, taking the load that we can bear and helping us to get through. He took our punishment and He made our restoration possible. Are we willing to grab His hand and to trust Him? I don't know how much Job knew and understood, but he trusted God, and God was his Redeemer.
And finally, we can say that Job had the guts, or as Hebrew 4:16 puts it, had the confidence to approach the throne of God thanks to this Redeemer that he believed in. Redeemer who has set the record straight regarding the argument between God and Satan in the heavenly council. Once and for all, we were offered an understanding that saves us from all the suffering and misery that spoiled this world long time ago.
Job proved Satan wrong. He didn't ask God for divorce to break the relationship when things got difficult. But the entire ugly face of Satan's insinuations was unmasked when Jesus gave his life for us. There is no one more deserving my trust, love, and full dedication than my Redeemer.
We have more things to talk about Job and his book. So join us next week when again we continue with our adventure.